Now we have our showcase. Okay, so we have our showcase ending graphic that we just exported out of After Effects. And now we're going to drag it and pull it into our editing software. And we're going to go to the end of our video and we're going to drag it in our timeline. And here we go. Let's check it out. Okay, great. So it just needs a little bit of a fade in and a fade out, but I love it. Now, the other thing with some of these templates is sometimes, you don't want to use all of it. Just because you export the whole template doesn't mean you need to use all of the beginning of it or all of the end of it. I'm not a huge fan of all this like flippy lion spinning around stuff. I'm okay with this second one, but this first one, it doesn't really do a whole lot for me. So personally, I'm gonna start the fade in during the second lion flippy thing. And I want to make it all the way faded in just before this text comes in. So I'm gonna do the fade in and let's just see how that looks. Okay, so first off, we can extend this outro so we're not cutting off the music. And I think this fade in, let's see it. Let's actually put our lion below our footage so that it comes from underneath. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now let's do a simple fade out. It's already got a really nice blur to it. So the image already kind of does the blur, which is perfect because that matches the styling of the rest of our graphics. Okay. Cool. Let's watch that back one more time. Perfect. So I'm loving that. Now, if we weren't happy with, I love the amount of detail that this has, so I personally don't feel like it needs anything. But, if we wanted to, let's say, change it a little bit, you can add a color correction layer, a sharpening layer, whatever you want to motion graphics just the same exact way as you can do it to footage. So if I wanted to tan it up, if I wanted to make it more blue, if I wanted to bring up the highlights more, if I wanted to make it more contrasted, if I wanted to add a vignette on the outside of the image, right? You can do all the things that you would normally do to other footage to your title cards. I could sharpen it up to create a little bit more of a crispness. I could add a faded look to it so it looked more of like a vintagey kind of logo by bringing out the grays in the image. So there it's kind of softer, more old-fashioned looking. I don't think it matches for this specific style, but there's a lot of options you can do. There's a lot of different things you can do. Now, one last filter that we can also add is we can invert um, any text that you're using. For example, let's say we weren't happy with the white font. We could easily go to our effects tab, go to invert, and drag that onto our text. That's going to invert any color. So it's going to make white black, it's going to make black white, it'll make red blue. So if I dropped it onto an actual piece of footage, you see all the dark parts of the image are now white. All the tan parts of the image are now a bluish. It kind of has a cool ghost look, but that's not what we're going for here. But for example, this is a lot of a white background with a little bit of dark text and a logo. If I drop this on, it's going to make a black background with white text and a white logo, which kind of matches with the white text in the rest of the project, right? So if I go and hit play, doesn't look super professional for this kind of project, but I have definitely used that in the past and it's worked really well for specific types of text and overlays. So that's just a little bit of a pro tip. Man, we got lost on our pro tips. Put up the pro tip right now. Okay, great. So, yeah, that's one of the last pro tips that I wanted to share with you for using one of these motion graphics. So, just in about 20 minutes together, we created this super professional, high end looking motion graphic. So we've created our title cards, we've created our main sequence, we made our really cool custom outro motion graphic, and now we're at the time in the edit where we want to do our color correction layer. Now, what I'm going to do is a similar process to what we've done before, where I want to raise up the titles that we created. That way, when we turn up the exposure or the highlights or drop the shadows on our footage below, we don't affect our title cards. That's a big no-no. So I'm going to go to our project window. I'm going to right click. I'm going to hit adjustment layer. I'm going to create that adjustment layer, drag it in, extend it out. And I know this ahead of time that I have quite a few different overall exposures. We have this outdoor sequence, we have these indoor to outdoor stuff, we have this living room stuff with outdoor. So there's a lot of different exposures. So we're going to have to kind of go through and fine tune. And then once we get over here, then we're outdoor again. So that's just something to keep in mind that we're going to have to do a little bit more work to get everything leveled and looking the same, or at least getting the exposures correct on these different types of clips. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to hit Lumetri Color. I'm going to grab that main color correction filter. And what I'm going to do is now that I have the effect laid over the entire timeline with no parameters adjusted yet, now I can go and cut where the major changes in scenery and exposure are going to be. And we already kind of did that marking earlier by changing the colors of what's in our timeline. So I know that all of this is going to be a very similar exposure. It's shot in the same location. If I make a cut here, I know that all of this again is going to be a very similar exposure because this is a grouping of the same parts of the house. Now I'm going to go here and we'll take it to, okay, so here's where we go outdoor. So right here, all these should be bedroom, bathroom. Yep, okay. And then we go to here, we're outdoor, and then we go to this nighttime transition. So we're going to create, oh, I forgot about that. Okay, we got to do our nighttime transition. We'll do that after this process. So we have our adjustment layers ready to go, and now it's time to go ahead and start fine tuning these clips. Now, this is a pretty good looking exposure. We have enough definition in the dark parts of the frame where it's not too dark, but it's not too bright where it looks not too where it looks kind of boring, but we don't want to go for a LUT. We're not going to do a LUT for this type of project because if we take a beautiful house and we start dropping on, these kind of preset custom LUTs, it's going to start, you don't want to do that too much on this kind of project because you want things as they are. Like that looks really cool if it was more of a music video, right? So always keeping in mind what type of project it is. You may have a certain, LUT that you love that works for all your projects, but if you get hired by a client and you need to create a clean, bright looking space, it's not going to work. And so we've talked about it before, but the coloring is what gives your footage the feeling. So this is a very like cold Iron Man kind of vibe. If I go to just pick a random different one, this is very black and white, looks old school. It's the same exact house. We're not changing the location. This is more of a Western kind of feel, So that's like more of a nighttime. Now this looks like almost nighttime footage. So we don't want to create that type of personality for this kind of project. We want to let our footage speak for itself. We want it to look nice and be realistic, not overly stylized. Okay, good. So we got that out of the way. Now, a good thing to do though is to definitely start with bringing up the saturation. For a project like this, we want everything to look vibrant and inviting and almost, healthy in a certain way. We don't want to have a black and white house with no color, no sky, no green plants. People aren't going to be interested in purchasing that for a showcase video. So instantly, just by boosting up the saturation, 75 points, that's looking pretty good. This one does not need a whole lot of work. I can bring up the exposure just 1 point, maybe 2 points, and a little bit more saturation. Let's go to 185. Okay. And that's looking great. Okay. These are really easy. These other shots, I think they're going to need a little bit more help. So we go into the house. Okay. Okay. So I see a big exposure difference. So we'll deal with that separately, but let's focus here. And let's bring up the exposure. Let's say 0.5. Okay. And let's bring up the shadows because we can see all these dark parts of the image. Yeah, right? That's not a good look when you really want to show something off and you want it to look pretty and nice and clean, right? So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And let's bring up the saturation. Okay. Okay. So without width.